With the Brooklyn Nets defeating the Cleveland Cavaliers in the play-in tournament, we know what this year's 2v7 matchup in the first round Eastern Conference will be. It will be the number 2 seed Boston Celtics versus the number 7 seed Brooklyn Nets. This is actually a really interesting series, and in today's video, I'll be predicting who I think will win the series and in how much games. First, I'll talk about the Celtics side, then the Nets side, then at the end, I'm going to talk about who I think will win and in how much games. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. I'm literally posting playoff content every single day. Also drop a comment on this video. I do respond to all of my comments. Also play that intro.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
To start with the Celtics, I'm going to talk about their positives in a series like this. And you can't talk about the Celtics this year without talking about their defense, which has been absolutely fantastic. Arguably the best defense in the NBA. And this is definitely something that could give the Nets trouble. They have multiple defenders to throw at the Nets' elite scorers and KD and Kyrie. Guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart can all defend Kyrie and KD at a pretty good level, as well as anyone in the league. But a huge negative is the fact that they'll be for sure missing Robert Williams in the series. He's been probably their most impactful defender this season, either him or Marcus Smart. He's been a top 5 paint defender this season, arguably the best shot blocker in the league. He's also shown the ability to guard the pick and roll better than most big men in the league. The Celtics are kind of lucky they have Al Horford, who isn't as good on defense as Williams, but at least he could do like somewhat the things that Williams did, such as protect the rim, guard the pick and roll. And unlike Williams, he can actually shoot the ball. But obviously Williams is a better player, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, Al Horford is not a terrible replacement. Most teams don't have that type of replacement. Regardless, Williams' impact is definitely going to be missed, especially in a series like this, where they're facing Kyrie and KD, two of the best scorers in the NBA, who love to finish around the basket. In a series like this, the Celtics will need Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to somewhat try and match the output of Kyrie and KD. They can't just get completely embarrassed. They can't have Kyrie and KD scoring 30, then both of them scoring like 20 or something. Brown and Tatum need to be aggressive and they need to hit their shots. They're one of the better duos in the NBA, so I think there's a chance they'll be able to do that. If they're not able to do that, the chances of them winning is really slim. Brown and Tatum, as I said, they're good. Those aren't guys you want to face in a series, especially when you realize those guys are basically playoff veterans, even though they're young, because every year of their career they've been in the playoffs, and every year they've performed well. Of course, they've had bad series, but overall they played well. They play well in the playoffs. Also in this series, the Celtics will have home court. They're one of the best teams in the league when they're at home. Obviously an advantage for obvious reasons. In a series like this, I think their X factor definitely has to be Marcus Smart or Al Horford. Smart in a series like this, you would hope that he could have a series like he did in the bubble versus the Raptors. If you don't know, he was hitting bare threes. He led them to comebacks and stuff like that. He was a legit shot creator. And Al Horford is obviously in the X factor because he needs to fill in for Robert Williams and keep the Celtics defense still at an elite level. My biggest fear for the Celtics in a series like this is honestly their offensive depth, because outside of Tatum and Brown, there isn't anyone I can really rely on offense, because there's a lot of other players on this team who just cannot create for themselves to save their life. And if their role players don't step up, I honestly don't see a world where they beat the Brooklyn Nets. The role players have to step up, but if the role players actually step up, they'll be hard to beat. To now talk about the Brooklyn Nets side in this series, obviously the Brooklyn Nets are not your normal regular 7 seed. Most times the 7 seed is easily the huge underdogs in a series against the 2nd seed. But in this series, the Brooklyn Nets are actually probably favored to win, and it's pretty much obvious why. They have the 2 best players in the series in Kyrie Irving and KD. And even if you think Jason Tatum is better than Kyrie, it's not by a huge margin. These 2 are some of the best playoff performers in NBA history. They're both 2 top 15 players, with Kevin Durant arguably being the best player in the Basketball Association. It's not like they just have 2 players then trash surrounding them. They actually have some pretty solid role players. Seth Curry and Patty Mills are 2 of the 10 best best shooters in the league. Then they have Andre Drummond, one of the best rebounders in the league. And then Ben Simmons is supposed to come back in like game 4 or something. Regardless how you might feel about him, we all know he's probably a top 5 defender in the league. He's a great playmaker and slasher. He wouldn't even have to be aggressive like that, and he'd be a huge help to this team. This is not an easy roster to beat. And to be honest, I have no question about the Brooklyn Nets on the offensive side of the floor because KD and Kyrie are just phenomenal. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be going up against the Celtics, who are one of the best defenses in the league. They have so much versatile defenders. It's not going to be a cake in the walk. It's not going to be a walk in the park for the Nets. But overall, when the Nets are healthy, they're probably like the top 3 offense in the league. So as long as they're hitting their shots, their offense should be fine. The Nets aren't really that good of a defense, but I think against the Celtics, they could do a solid job, because although the Celtics are pretty rated high in offensive rating, I promise you they're not as good on offense as it looks, because outside of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, a lot of the other guys on this team are just reliant on like wide open catch and shoots. None of them can create for themselves. And I think the Nets are probably going to try and exploit that by throwing double teams at Tatum and Brown and trying to let other players beat them. And to be honest, I don't have that much faith that the other players on the Celtics can beat them. And the question I might have is that the Nets don't have like that much great one-on-one defenders. But when they get Ben Simmons back, I think he could do as good of a job as anyone in the league on Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. And I think Kevin Durant could do a solid enough job on Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. But to be honest, that might make him tired, because those guys are the focal points of the Celtics offense. That's probably my biggest concern. But overall, we all know how good the Nets are when they're fully healthy, and right now they're nearly fully healthy. As long as Kevin Durant and Kyrie are playing and the role players are allowed to hit their shots, this team is going to be really hard to beat in a series for any team. But to drop a prediction on who I think will win, trust me, it's really close, but I think I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Nets, and I think they're going to win in a close 7-game series. I honestly think the series will be really close, way closer than a lot of people are thinking. I just feel that. I'm not going to bet against Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in a series. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. I don't know if I ever will, depending on how they play. But I'm not sleeping on the Celtics, because their defense is really scary, and I think it will definitely give the Nets some type of trouble. But at the end of the day, the Nets have arguably the 2 top 5 scorers in the league right now, combined with great shooting and solid role players. If Rob Williams was playing, I definitely would have gave them way more of a chance to win the series. But I'm just not going to bet against Kevin Durant. We all know who that guy is. He's Kevin Durant. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Celtics could pull off the upset. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to go with 3,000 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video. I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.